Imagine a ticking time bomb that could reshape the financial world in ways most people cannot yet see. Right now, billions of dollars in office loans are approaching refinancing deadlines, and the weight of that pressure is mounting quietly, like the slow tension before a storm finally breaks. Many investors, pension funds, and banks are standing on the edge of uncertainty, facing decisions that could ripple through economies, neighborhoods, and the lives of ordinary people in ways that seem distant until suddenly they are immediate. The truth is, every financial decision we make, whether we are aware of it or not, is part of a larger ecosystem of cause and effect. And understanding that ecosystem is more than strategy, it's philosophy. Abigail Johnson has often highlighted the importance of foresight and measured risk, reminding us that while markets may fluctuate, the mindset we carry as investors, thinkers, or even just citizens determines whether we are prepared to face change or swept away by it. Now think about the office buildings that line our cities, the towering structures of glass and steel, each representing countless loans, investments, and hopes. These are not just inert buildings, they are the crystallization of ambition, human ingenuity, and financial trust. When these structures become part of a looming debt deadline, they carry with them the potential to shift everything, not through malice, but simply through the weight of numbers, deadlines, and interest rates that no one can pause. Rising interest rates, the invisible currents that flow beneath every financial decision, are like a hidden tide, pushing and pulling at the stability we take for granted. The banks that lend, the pension funds that invest, the investors who trust their retirement and savings, all are subject to forces that demand attention and action. Yet, in the midst of this tension lies opportunity, a chance for those who prepare wisely, who observe the patterns, and who do not shy away from discomfort. Abigail Johnson's teachings, though not always literal instructions, remind us that education, observation, and patience are the pillars of sustainable success. As we look closer at the debt landscape, the pressure on financial institutions is subtle but unrelenting. Loans that once seemed manageable now carry heavier interest burdens. Refinancing options are narrowing, and decisions must be made with precision and clarity. This is not a distant story happening somewhere else. It is the story of how interconnected our financial lives are and how a shift in one corner of the market can resonate across cities, industries, and households. Imagine the suspense in knowing that deadlines loom, yet no one can predict precisely how each actor will respond. Will a bank pull back, tightening its lending and forcing companies to adjust? Will a pension fund shift strategies, creating ripple effects across investments and employees relying on those funds? The tension is not drama for entertainment. It is the real pulse of responsibility, the pulse that tests foresight, judgment, and courage. And it is in these moments that philosophical understanding of finance becomes more than theory. It becomes a tool for survival, for growth, and for leadership. Those who recognize the ticking nature of this time bomb do not panic. They prepare, they analyze, they observe, they think ahead. They recognize that every loan approaching a refinancing deadline is more than numbers. It represents trust, human ambition, and potential vulnerability. For an investor or an observer, this realization can inspire clarity and action rather than fear. And yet most people are unaware, focused on their daily lives, their routines, their immediate concerns. This is the nature of risk. Most of it exists in the unseen, the unconsidered, the slowly accumulating pressures that eventually reveal themselves with dramatic effect. But preparation and understanding transform that suspense into opportunity. Abigail Johnson has emphasized that knowledge is the bridge between uncertainty and action, and in moments like these, that bridge is not merely intellectual, it is practical, tangible, and profoundly impactful. To reduce vulnerability to market shocks, one must first embrace the reality of what is happening. Billions of office loans nearing refinancing deadlines, interest rates climbing steadily, banks and pension funds under stress, and the broader market waiting to see who will act wisely and who will falter. This is not a story meant to frighten. It is a story meant to awaken awareness, to challenge the mind, and to inspire responsibility. Every individual who pays attention, who seeks to understand these patterns, is better positioned not only to survive financial shocks, but also to harness them, to make informed decisions that protect assets, and to guide others toward prudent, thoughtful actions. In the quiet tension of these moments, there is a profound lesson. Markets, like life, are unpredictable in detail, but predictable in principle. Risks are always present, but preparation, observation, and understanding create resilience. Abigail Johnson's influence reminds us that these principles apply not only to high finance, but to personal growth and decision-making. It is about thinking ahead, weighing choices with a clear mind, and recognizing the inevitability of change. And so, as we consider the looming debt deadlines and the pressures on banks and pension funds, let us not succumb to fear. Instead, let us engage with clarity, learn with intention, and act with purpose. This is the intersection where financial wisdom meets life philosophy, where suspense is not just tension, but also the invitation to awaken, prepare, and grow. In understanding the time bomb of commercial real estate debt, we glimpse a broader truth, that insight, courage, and deliberate action are always more valuable than panic, and that the patterns of finance mirror the patterns of life, both demanding awareness, patience, and the readiness to respond wisely when the moment calls. As the clock ticks closer to these refinancing deadlines, the atmosphere in the financial world grows heavy with anticipation, a tension that is invisible yet palpable, felt in every careful calculation, every cautious move by banks, investors, and pension funds. It is a suspense that is quiet yet relentless, a slow crescendo that tests patience, foresight, and the courage to act before circumstances force your hand. For those who watch closely, it is impossible to ignore the signals: rising interest rates, tightening lending conditions, and the growing realization that a sudden shift in one sector could reverberate through the entire market. Imagine walking through a city of skyscrapers, each tower representing more than concrete and steel, each office a microcosm of human ambition and financial trust, knowing that behind the glass facades, a complex web of loans, agreements, and deadlines is quietly ticking toward a critical point. The suspense is not theatrical. It is the weight of reality, the anticipation of consequences that can be felt across industries, communities, and personal lives. It is in moments like these that the principles Abigail Johnson has long emphasized: disciplined analysis, long-term perspective, and thoughtful decision-making become more than abstract ideas. They become the very tools we need to navigate uncertainty. For the unprepared, this tension can be paralyzing. For the wise, it is instructive, a living classroom teaching lessons in risk, resilience, and responsibility. The commercial real estate debt approaching refinancing is not just numbers on paper. It is a reflection of collective human choices, the sum of countless judgments, and the manifestation of confidence, trust, and sometimes overconfidence. And yet the market itself does not pause, does not grant a moment of mercy for indecision or hesitation. Time moves steadily forward, and with each passing day, the pressures mount, sharpening the stakes for those who must respond. This is where suspense becomes both a challenge and a teacher, where the unknown tests resolve, and where the difference between insight and oversight can define outcomes for years to come. The stakes are not only financial, they are philosophical in the sense that they illuminate truths about preparedness, foresight, and the nature of risk. To navigate such moments successfully, one must cultivate a mindset that embraces uncertainty as a natural part of life, rather than as an enemy to be avoided. Abigail Johnson's guidance, though rooted in finance, reminds us that these lessons are universal. The habits of careful observation, disciplined thought, and measured action are the pillars of resilience in every domain. And as the suspense builds, there is a subtle, almost imperceptible turning point. A single decision, a shift in lending policy, an adjustment in investment strategy, or even a public announcement can trigger a cascade of effects, testing the stability of the market and the readiness of those who depend upon it. In this moment, the stakes are amplified, and the difference between preparation and reaction becomes starkly clear. For those who have anticipated, who have studied the patterns, and who have aligned their actions with insight rather than impulse, there is an opportunity to act decisively, to mitigate risks, and to guide others towards stability. For those who are unprepared, the consequences may be swift, and the lessons, though harsh, will be undeniable. This duality, the potential for both opportunity and setback, is what gives suspense its power. It is not mere drama. It is a reflection of the natural tension inherent in any system governed by deadlines, decisions, and human behavior. Consider for a moment the banks and pension funds that are directly exposed to these refinancing deadlines. Each has its own internal calculations, its own risk assessments, and yet all operate within the broader currents of the market, influenced by global trends, interest rate adjustments, and the shifting confidence of investors. The pressure is compounded by the fact that many stakeholders, employees, shareholders, and ordinary citizens depend on their decisions. The weight of responsibility is immense, and the consequences of misjudgment, though often invisible until they manifest, can be transformative. In this landscape, suspense is inseparable from consequence. It is the quiet awareness that what seems stable today may be unsettled tomorrow, that what appears manageable may tip suddenly under unseen pressure. And in these moments, reflection becomes essential. Abigail Johnson has emphasized that the ability to anticipate, to understand not only the surface numbers, but the underlying human behaviors and systemic patterns is what separates those who thrive from those who merely survive. This insight is critical because it underscores a profound truth. The future is not predetermined, but it is shaped by the choices we make in preparation for it. The suspense, then, is not something to fear. It is an invitation to engage deeply, to think clearly, and to act with intention. Every careful assessment, every considered strategy, and every mindful adjustment is a response to the unknown, a way of turning suspense into an actionable guide. For investors, business leaders, or anyone seeking stability in the face of uncertainty, the lesson is clear. Anticipation is power, and understanding is security. As refinancing deadlines loom and interest rates climb, the potential for shocks grows, yet so does the opportunity for strategic foresight. It is the paradox of suspense. It heightens anxiety, yet it also clarifies priorities. The real estate debt time bomb is not a spectacle to watch from afar. It is a reality to understand, to prepare for, and to navigate with wisdom. And as we consider the implications, we see that the personal application of these lessons is profound. In life, just as in finance, deadlines, pressures, and unseen forces shape outcomes. How we respond, how we prepare, and how we cultivate awareness determines whether we are swept away or anchored firmly in reason and resilience. Abigail Johnson's approach teaches that insight, patience, and deliberate action are the antidotes to the paralysis that suspense can create. By understanding patterns, observing carefully, and acting thoughtfully, we can turn moments of tension into opportunities for growth, security, and even leadership. In the shadow of looming financial deadlines, there is an enduring truth. Awareness and preparation are more powerful than fear, patience more valuable than impulse, and knowledge more enduring than chance. By engaging with these truths, we can face suspense not as a threat, but as a guide, an invitation to sharpen our judgment, strengthen our strategy, and prepare for outcomes that may redefine our understanding of risk, reward, and responsibility. As we move toward the resolution of these looming refinancing deadlines, it becomes clear that the lessons embedded in this situation extend far beyond the walls of office buildings or the balance sheets of banks and pension funds. This is about more than commercial real estate debt. It is about understanding how life, finance, and human behavior intersect to create opportunities and challenges that are inseparable from the decisions we make today. Abigail Johnson has often often spoken to the importance of aligning insight with action, of translating awareness into practical strategies that prepare us for both uncertainty and possibility. In this context, the commercial real estate debt time bomb is a metaphor not only for financial pressure, but also for the broader principle that preparedness is the key to resilience. Every decision we make, whether it is investment-related or personal, contributes to a trajectory that shapes our capacity to respond when unforeseen circumstances arise. The suspense that has carried us through this narrative is not merely tension for its own sake. It is the universe's way of testing foresight, focus, and the ability to act wisely under pressure. Banks must calculate risk carefully, pension funds must weigh long-term obligations against immediate pressures, and investors must evaluate how each ripple could affect their portfolios. At the same time, individuals who observe, learn, and apply these lessons cultivate a mindset that thrives under uncertainty rather than being paralyzed by it. The lesson is universal. The structures of finance reflect the structures of life. Just as refinancing deadlines and interest rates create urgency and suspense, deadlines, expectations, and challenges in life call for attention, insight, and preparation. Abigail Johnson's influence reminds us that thoughtful, deliberate action is always more effective than reactive behavior, that knowledge coupled with discipline is a form of power that carries through even the most turbulent times. Consider the practical applications. Reducing vulnerability to market shocks requires awareness of patterns, understanding of systemic risks, and the willingness to act decisively when the signals become clear. It also requires patience and restraint, the courage to wait for the right moment to adjust strategies rather than rushing blindly in response to fear. The suspense, the pressure, and the looming uncertainties are not obstacles. They are the conditions under which true insight is forged. When billions of dollars in loans approach refinancing, every minor decision matters. A single shift in lending terms, a single adjustment in a financial model, or a single cautious step can prevent cascading consequences. The same principle applies to life. Small, intentional choices often compound to produce outcomes far beyond what seems immediately visible. Understanding this allows us to navigate both financial markets and personal journeys with a sense of purpose and control, even amid tension. Abigail Johnson's philosophy reinforces the idea that leadership, whether over finances or one's own life, is rooted in preparation, observation, and ethical, informed action. We are reminded that suspense is not a foe to fear, but a guide that illuminates where attention is needed most, where decisions can have meaningful impact, and where courage must be exercised thoughtfully. The office buildings, the loans, and the financial instruments are all reflections of human ambition, trust, and sometimes overconfidence. When these elements align with deadlines and rising interest rates, the potential for disruption grows. But so does the potential for foresight to convert tension into opportunity. Those who observe, who prepare, and who act with clarity are the ones who thrive, while those who ignore patterns or delay decisions risk facing consequences that could have been anticipated and mitigated. In this way, the suspense of the financial world teaches a broader lesson. Vigilance, understanding, and intentionality are the foundations of resilience. The story of commercial real estate debt is, in essence, a story of human behavior under pressure, of decisions made in the presence of uncertainty, and of the ways that knowledge and insight can guide outcomes towards stability rather than chaos. Abigail Johnson's guidance provides a lens through which we can view these challenges not as threats to fear, but as opportunities to grow wiser, act with purpose, and cultivate habits that strengthen both financial acumen and life perspective. By embracing these lessons, we begin to see patterns where others see only chaos, opportunities where others see only risk, and strategies where others see only uncertainty. The final lesson is one of empowerment. While we cannot control every variable, we can control our awareness, our preparation, and the intentionality with which we act. Understanding risk is not about predicting every outcome. It is about recognizing potential, responding thoughtfully, and building the resilience to navigate whatever arises. As refinancing deadlines approach and interest rates press upward, the suspense reaches its peak, not as a source of fear, but as a source of clarity. In this moment, preparation is the antidote to anxiety, insight the antidote to uncertainty, and deliberate action the antidote to inaction. This is the power of philosophy applied to finance and life. Awareness turns suspense into guidance, tension into focus, and uncertainty into informed strategy. And just as Abigail Johnson inspires thoughtful decision-making in finance, we too can apply these principles to our personal growth, professional development, and approach to challenges. By observing carefully, planning prudently, and acting decisively, we align ourselves with the natural rhythms of risk and reward, opportunity and consequence. As we conclude this reflection, the time bomb of commercial real estate debt serves as both a warning and a guide, illustrating how deadlines, pressure, and uncertainty are inseparable from the opportunity to act wisely. The message is simple yet profound. Vigilance, insight, and intentional action transform suspense into a tool for preparation, and preparation transforms potential crisis into sustainable success. No matter the challenges we face, the principles remain constant. Observe, understand, prepare, and act with clarity. And in closing, we remind you, if you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notification so you can see our new videos early.